Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, it's time!
Three on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game!
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Float game for the win! Ayla's gone. Goodbye. Touchdown, Indy. Woo! IU. America. They got a football team now.
Pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard to another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Tuesday. Thank you so much for joining us, no matter where or how you're listening, whether it's on one of our great radio station affiliates like 97.7 ESPN, The Ref, always the right call down in Evansville, or up in the region on the voice of the region, 1230 AM, 104.7 FM, WJOB, and in Fort Wayne on Fort Wayne's only sports station, 1380 The Fan. Just keep it locked right here on these stations throughout the day. No reason to go anywhere else. They'll give you all that you want, man. All that you want. Looking forward to another fun day. Mike DeCourcy will join us. Plenty to talk about as the basketball season is coming to a starting to come to a close. We get closer and closer to not only conference season, tournament season, but the NCAA tournament season is around the corner. Who's going to make it? Who is not? Plenty of talk there. Who's going to make the Big Ten tournament? We kind of have a good idea, but I think there will be a team or two that fights in there for that last spot. We'll see about that. We'll talk about some IU football today, as well as that is pro day for the Hoosiers, as there are plenty of guys that will be out there having a look-see by some pro scouts, and we'll talk about that as well. Plenty of basketball to talk about. Cooper Flagg insisted he's living in the present, would not speculate on whether or not he has played his last game at Cameron Indoor Stadium. That took place last night. And Duke is doing a phenomenal job, but I don't think that they can win a national championship with the youngsters, although they have looked pretty good, especially Cooper Flagg. He has looked great. All those guys that came out of Montverde looking pretty good. Derek Queen as well, but Auburn, speaking of the top 25, still number one, el numero uno in the AP top 25, followed by Duke. Right behind him, Duke has only lost 3 times this season. Houston with a big win over Kansas, who is just fading. Number 3, Tennessee in that 4th spot. Probably with the didn't they just get a win over Alabama? That's probably going to secure, but it's hard to say now with the SEC tournament coming up, who is going to get that fourth number 1 seed? Auburn, Duke, Houston probably locked in, but then you have Tennessee, you have Florida, you have Alabama, who, like I said, just took that loss. They're 23-6, so they're probably knocked out of that. But how about St. John's and Rick Pitino? Sitting right there at number 6. Rick Pitino and St. John's. St. John's wins the Big East title for the first time in 40 years. They are 26-4. You think the old man can't coach people? Well, I'll tell you otherwise. That is not the case. He is doing a remarkable job still in his second season there. They move up a spot this week. And, hey, that dude is one of the baddest of all time when it comes to coaching. Michigan State from the Big Ten, finally, the first Big Ten team peeking out at number 8 in the top 10. Then Wisconsin is number 12 after taking a loss at Michigan State. Nothing to be ashamed of. Maryland, number 13, and Louisville dropped down to 17 for Michigan. Michigan is kind of fading. Michigan just does not look that strong to me. The games they win, they're close, and they have been beaten twice badly this year. Purdue just hung it on them when they played earlier in the season at West Lafayette, and then Illinois goes to Ann Arbor and just crushes Michigan. So not so sold on the big Wolverines and how they're going to end up. But we'll see. Mike DeCourcy joining us here in this hour. We'll look forward to talking to him about that. Appreciate everybody on the chat line as well, hitting us up with plenty of comments. Caleb says, IU swimming got an Olympic medalist committed yesterday. I think that was from Carmel. John says, it's duck season, y'all. Is it? I did not know that. Of course, I don't really know when duck season would be, so why would I know that? I'm more accustomed to the fall hunting seasons. I'm more familiar with those, at least. Not on the duck season, though. Indiana, a 6-point underdog tonight, according to Ed. Sounds about right. Playing at Oregon. It's been a tough place to play. Oregon playing well here of late, kind of bouncing back and forth, to be honest with you. But Indiana's been playing really well. This is going to be an interesting game, and I am really looking forward to watching this one. As you know, are we seeing smoke and mirrors, or is this Indiana team kind of coming around with the rotation that they're playing right now, the guys finding their roles, with the urgency? We'll see how all of that is coming into play. That even if they lose, it doesn't mean that wasn't real. And I missed the joke. So, yes, I did. It's hard to keep up with everything. John, you'll have to point that out. I'm telling you guys, when it comes to comments, you guys got to be just flat out pure descriptive to me or I'll miss it. John says the Cooper Flag wasn't far from a triple-double last night. He's pretty you gotta acknowledge the fact that the dude he's a bad man. And Caleb also says he plays really good defense as well. Hey, he's a player. He wants to go to the league, and he knows you can't go to the league if you're not an all-around player. And so that's Dusty Banner says, come on, Jim, Oregon Ducks. Not sure what that means. But we'll see. Robert's going to root for Houston. If he wins, the Samson haters will lose their stuff. Oh, you mean to win it all? You know what? There one. Aaron jumping on. How you doing, sir? Been meaning to text you anyway. Hope everyone's. Yeah, it only took 29 games. Yeah, that is a something. You know what? Over in the top 25, I kind of didn't finish that. Louisville, number 14, Patrick Kelsey. How about that? Taking a brand new team, 13 new players, and has them at 13th or 14th in the country. Congratulations to them. Purdue, number 18. They're right behind Michigan. Purdue has shown their kryptonite. I don't see them going very far in the tournament either. Them and Michigan are kind of equal to me. And doesn't Purdue play either Michigan or Michigan? No, they only play Michigan State, maybe. Left off to pull that up and check that out. Mississippi State, the last team in the top 25, as your boy Chris Beard's squad is dropped out. So there is that. Let's see. Florida State and Clemson will vote Tuesday on an agreement that will ultimately result in the settlement of 4 ongoing lawsuits. As you know, that has been going on. But I better take a quick break so I can get Mike DeCourcy in when it's that time, and we're close to it. So We'll take that first break, and Mike will probably join us on the other side. Appreciate you being with us as we come to you from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Tuesday. I hope that you're getting out and enjoying and supporting our sponsors, all of them. Back with more from, I'm just going to do the letters, HT, but I don't have them memorized. HTDS. There you go. Hard Truth Distilling Company. Oh, I'll let the C out. Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios is a lot easier. Back with it right after these messages.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at BenDavisChevrolet.com and BenDavisFord.com.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemoreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum, Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Tuesday. So happy to have you along. Appreciate you, and appreciate everybody hitting us up hard and heavy on the hotline here. And Aaron over from ISC says he's going to Muncie Fieldhouse tonight to watch Braylon Mullins. He'll be chanting for the Hoosiers to see if he can get in his ear. It would probably be a little easier if they had a coach in place. I'm not saying that it would, but you do wonder, depending upon whom they get, would it make a difference? I don't know that it would, because I think Braylon is pretty locked into not just UConn, but with Danny Hurley. I think that he likes what is going on there, and even with what's happening right now, we'll see. But the thing is, in today's era, guys that go that you don't get, you still might end up with, and you might end up with them when they're better, to be honest with you, because of the transfer. But who knows? Justin watched an old game last night, Washington State versus Indiana in 93. Kelvin Sampson was the coach of the, I did not know he coached Washington State. I don't remember that, man. So Laurie says the ACC is not real stellar right now for U of L. No, it is not. And speaking of greatness, Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News. Boy, don't you just love those segues I'm always able to throw in there? I may not be good at much, but there's one thing I am. I can smoothly slide it in. When I was growing up, WHAS 11, the 50,000 watt station, Terry Miners was what is the long time DJ there, but they had a sportsman named Van Vance.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, he was around him and a guy named Sid Jenkins, and it was always the smooth talking Sid Jenkins. I always loved that. But the smooth talking Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News, BTN, and Fox. That's a busy time of year to have all those titles right now, Mike, because man, is that keeping you busy?
You think?
With all of those? Oh boy, you got the bracket analyst going on right now. See how good I'm getting that just pretty much ingrained in my head. Bracket analyst, just it starts to roll off the tongue. That other name, that's old school now. Bracket analyst sounds way better anyway.
It does.
I like it. I like it. There should be. You be like Evan Miyakawa, a friend we've had on before, who was actually has a doctorate in stats, and he could be a doctor of basketball analysis. I guess he could create his own title for that matter.
I guess once you're a doctor, you can call yourself anything, right?
I guess you don't need to. Just doctor's all it takes, baby.
Yeah, definitely.
You look like, are you traveling or are you home downstairs?
No, I'm home. We're having some work done on the house, so I'm in our basement.
Looks like I was like that, or I'm like, oh boy, he's in a nice breakfast nook area at a hotel. A little fancy back behind him. I'm waiting. Where's the waffle bar back there?
Yeah, someone asked me yesterday if the thing behind me is a popcorn machine, and I said no. It's like a decorative lantern, I
see exactly what they're saying because yes,
you can see
the four corners. Absolutely, my daughter has one with her when she lives with her mom. They have an old popcorn machine, which is cool. But the thing is, you use that for a while and then you don't use it anymore, and it just sits there.
Yep, and takes up space and collects dust, no doubt.
It's like a treadmill that turns into a coat hanger.
Wow, yeah. Well, my treadmill, until it died, it served me well. We're still working on trying to replace it, unfortunately, a year later. Still working on that.
Kudos to you. Quickly in the ACC, sources say that FSU and Clemson are expected to reach a settlement with the ACC, which is good just for that to settle down, because obviously I don't think they were really going to be able to do much with it. They're locked in. It is what it is. They probably don't have the best agreement out there, but I guess we're able to get some satisfactory terms and start to move forward with that.
Yeah, I thought the ACC gave in a little bit too much, especially on the back end. It's not the idea that if they get good TV ratings, they get more money. I don't have a problem with that. Fine. You probably should in a lot of ways. Okay, fine with that. But the idea that their exit penalties were lessened, I think, is a mistake on the ACC's part, a capitulation when they held a pretty strong hand. Most of the legal experts were saying that they held a strong hand, and they went ahead and settled on that anyway. So I have a friend in Raleigh who believes that now that they have this settlement date, that basically the ACC is going to lose them in 2030. And I still don't buy the idea that the Big Ten and SEC are going to go form a super league, Jim. I just don't buy it because it's not good business to kick. It's not good business to kick all the ACC schools and all the Big 12 schools out of major college football, so to speak. And the reason it's not good business, Jim, is that they represent millions of alumni and millions of established fans. And if you say that you can't be in the club anymore, then they're not going to watch what you do. You're not getting them to watch what you do if you kick them out of the club. It's different if they're in the club and they know that you are a more prominent member of the club, so to speak. Everybody's in the country club, but that guy over there, he's got way more money than I do. But if you're still in the club, you kick them out, and they're not going to play anymore. I'm not talking about play football. I'm talking about they're not playing along with you as someone they want to watch. So why would you disenfranchise tens of millions of committed college football viewers to create this super league? I don't buy that. I don't think that's what will happen. It is not good business to shut the door on the consumer. That's not it. You can say you can make things exclusive that once were not. You can up the price and make them harder to get, and people will say, "Well, I can still get it if I get the money." But if you'd say, "Nope, you can't play. You're out. You're not a part of this," I just don't buy that the SEC and Big Ten would say, even if they invite a handful of them into their super league, 40 teams, whatever. They bring in 5 or 6 of the best ones. Those others they're done. Your markets are relatively close to them. And I just don't buy that that's good business. And I haven't seen anything yet happen in this sphere that has been bad business. Getting bigger was not bad business. I will say that probably it was not great business for the ACC to add in Stanford and Cal. But it was a relatively minor addition to what has become a relatively minor conference.
Yeah, they would have seemed to fit better in the Big 12 just because of proximity, but what the heck do I know? Another question that comes if with the thought of potential super conference or super conferences, is there any chance that either the Big Ten or the SEC would excise a couple of the lower performing teams from a football standpoint? And I don't want to point anybody out specifically because it goes in, it's cyclical, so to speak. So, a year ago, Indiana would have been one of those teams definitely on that list. Don't think that they are at the moment, but Purdue would probably fit in that list at the moment. But they've had great runs in football. So, but is that something that you see as a possibility?
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. I'm looking up right now. The population of Indiana is 7 million people. So let's just say you kick them both out. This is very theoretical here because you know how everybody listening knows I don't believe this is the way to go or that it's likely to happen. But you kick out the state of Indiana, that's 7 million people. You have now told 7 million people in Indiana they don't matter. That's what you're saying. So what are they going to say? They're going to say, no, you don't matter. I'll watch the Colts. And then I'll go play golf on Sunday, or I'll go, fix my yard or whatever. But they're not going to watch your sport if you say they don't matter. And that's what I'm talking about. If you say that to the teams in the Big 12, Arizona State, now we've wiped out the entire state of Arizona in the same way. And I think they have even more people. And it goes on down the line. You're saying to Kansas, nope, you're gone too. And so that's just not good business. The way it's structured now, it's not the SEC and Big Ten's responsibility to make sure that the Big 12 gets paid, except in their one event at the end of the year in which they get the lion's share of the money because they have the lion's share of the best teams. So no, it's not a good idea to form this super conference concept and either remove the less desirable members of your current conferences or wipe out the relevance of those in the ACC, Big 12, Mountain West, new Pac-12, etc.
Yeah, and because football has carries so much weight now, where it always had weight, but it was not the behemoth that it is looked upon now from a financial standpoint, because basketball was, still got a lot of the attention with so many different. There are more probably. I hate to use the word blue blood basketball programs than football programs. but it's now really swung. Football is the king of the jungle without question. And as we've seen that in Georgia's case, they plan to give 75% of the house settlement money to football, which makes sense. It's just like a business. If you're running a business, you have to put the money into the part of the company that's growing and that can grow and that can bring you in more revenue.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about that. And I think that's going to be interesting to follow from various schools, what they do with that money. And I think it'll also be interesting to follow what ultimately becomes of NIL as it is now. Not I'm doing a car commercial like Juju Watkins kind of NIL. That's not going anywhere. Like if you're Juju and you can get that deal, you can get that deal. But there's still some nebulous circumstance surrounding the collective-oriented NIL that we've seen over the past 3 years. We don't really know what's going to become of it. It supposedly will go away. I still don't buy that will hold up in court. I don't know why they're trying to limit it, because it's a likely court loss to come, and they don't need any more court losses. But we assume that that's likely to go away. So as a result, you're going to have that house money be the money that's available to the athletes for the most part. And how it's divided up relative to football, men's basketball, wrestling in some places, very few, but some, women's basketball, etc. All of those different items will be part of where the money goes. And I think there will be places where, like Georgia, I suspect Alabama, although I don't know, where a vast portion of that money will go. And that's not to call out Alabama. I mean, it's just a place where football really matters, and they've been historically great at it. I can't imagine they're going to want to give Georgia an advantage over them. And that will probably be true for much of the SEC. There might be a few schools like Vanderbilt that kind of pump up the basketball portion of that a little bit. Baseball at some of the schools in the SEC might take some of it for baseball as well.
Yeah, but I don't expect NIL to go anywhere, especially you look at Ohio State or teams like that have these multi-million-dollar payrolls. They're not going to stop pulling that money in, because that's going to give them an advantage on top of the $20 million.
But the settlement says it's not supposed to exist.
Isn't it a fair and market?
Well, like I said, if you are a business in Columbus, say, let's say, again, it's always convenient to pick on the car dealers or to cite the car dealers. But if you're a Chevy dealer in Columbus and you are a big sponsor or booster of Ohio State football, there is nothing stopping you from having one of the players featured in a commercial, having multiple. You could take the whole defense or the whole offensive line and have them in a commercial. You can bring them into your showroom and have them sign cards or autographs or whatever, as long as they're paid fair market value. And that's the issue. Now, I mean, Juju Watkins doing a commercial for State Farm. I mean, there's a pretty established market value for that, because they're like Chris Paul has done it. Caitlin has done it. So there's a pretty established market value for that. But what is it for a card signing at a business like a car dealership or a restaurant or a sports bar or once upon a time I saved when I was in Memphis, I saved a future U.S. soccer legend from going to a card show to a soccer store to sign autographs after she won a gold medal. I prevented that from happening because it would have caused major issues with her eligibility. No one knew that was against the rules. And when someone gave me a sheet to go cover it, I said, she can't do this or she's going to lose her eligibility. Like, now you can do that. That was 30 years ago. But back then you couldn't. I don't know what the market value is for that, though. She wasn't going to get paid to do it. She was just trying to thank her public, so to speak. Now you can get paid, but they have to establish what's that worth to a business like that, to have that person, that celebrity in their store.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out, because we know that especially the big football programs are going to still look for any and every advantage they can. It's like NASCAR, baby. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. And so that's why they keep catching those guys. Oh, a little illegal something here. You have to push the limits. And that's what they'll do. Not to necessarily cheat, but it's to see where is the line. How far can we go? And that's how you find out how far the line is until you get
what I've heard, Jim, is that because that settlement is not signed yet, you can still expect it will go into force next year. That's what everybody is anticipating. And therefore, the revenue share will be available to the athletes at whatever rate the school chooses to provide it. But the NIL portion, that ban on collective style NIL, is not yet signed. So you can sign, all right, Mike DeCourcy, point guard. You can sign Mike DeCourcy, point guard, to a collective NIL deal now because the settlement isn't yet in force. So there are schools out there that are endeavoring to get those sorts of deals arranged and signed before that settlement goes in place. So at least for the first year, various athletes at various programs will be allowed to be paid in that fashion.
I wish I could get on the payroll, baby. I wish I could get on the payroll. Actually, I would just like to be a fired coach. I just want to be.
That's the dream, right?
Coach. That is the dream. Get fired, get paid to go away. I'm like, hasta la vista, baby. You'll never see me again. But you'll see me right after this break. Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News, Big Ten and Fox with us. Indiana, big game tonight with Oregon on the road. The Big Ten is getting tight as we get down to the last couple of games. Michigan State kind of got it flexed. They've gone on a flex, and they are the favorite to win it. We'll see what they can wrap up. We've got more coming up with the great one, Mike DeCourcy, right after these messages from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road rye, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Marie in Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Marie Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. When it comes to apparel and promotions, FreeThink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. FreeThink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. FreeThink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what FreeThink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at BenDavisChevrolet.com and BenDavisFord.com.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Tuesday. So happy to have you with us. Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News, Fox and Big Ten Networks with us. Indiana taking on an Oregon team tonight who started out like a house of fire, Mike, in the earlier portion of the Big Ten season, and then got a big dose of Big Ten basketball and kind of came back to reality, but they're hanging on there, and playing in Eugene is a tough place to play. But first of all, Dana Altman, he's one of the most undervalued coaches probably in college basketball. 775 wins in 36 seasons. Now, he hasn't done a lot in the postseason, which is probably part of that. He doesn't get thought of up there because he's in a very unique class with Tom Izzo and Bill Self to have active coaches to have 700 wins, I believe. 27 consecutive winning seasons. 27 consecutive winning seasons. That, that's consistency.
Oh, he's a tremendous coach, and he has some ridiculous record in March. I can't remember exactly what it is, but his record in March is pretty remarkable, and he does have a Final Four on his resume, and it's not like Oregon was making regular trips there prior to his arrival. I think I know that they won the first national championship in 1939. I don't know if they made another Final Four after that. I'm not sure, but then came 2017, and they made it with that group. And so he's done a remarkable job there. Did terrific work at Creighton. Kind of established Creighton as the power that they were, taking over from Lon Kruger, who really got it started. But then it was Dana that got it to be the program that people feared in March. That was one of those Valley teams that could pull the first round upset. I remember their upset over Florida. I think 2000 or 2001, somewhere around. It would have been 2001 because 2000 Florida made the Final Four. But just a remarkable coach, really good guy. He's done a nice job with this team. They lost a lot off of last year's group. Nate Biddle, their 7-foot center, he's been the key in a lot of ways to the success of this team. When he's played well, I did this thing about him in our pregame show on BTN last Saturday, and went through this litany of elements. Like when he rebounds big, they win. I don't remember the exact numbers, but let's say they're 10-3 when he gets 9 or more rebounds or double-figure rebounds, and when he scores 18 or more, they're like 11-3, and when he gets 3 assists or more, they're like 9-1, and like every time he plays well, they win or they're close to winning. And when he played poorly during that stretch you talked about, I don't know whether he wasn't well or he was in a bad mood or whatever, but during that stretch he really struggled. And I, when you see a player like this struggle to that degree, it is mysterious to an extent, because the things he does well in a lot of cases it's not like he's a shooter having to step out and make threes to be good. I mean, he could do that, but he doesn't have to. He can block shots and defend and rebound and affect games. And in that stretch, he didn't do really any of those things, and they struggled. But when he plays well, and obviously tonight's a big game for them, because as much as Indiana is trying to get into the field, and they are in my bracket now, that Oregon is trying to hold on to a 6 seed and maybe climb to a 5, and that's available to them. But they have to win games like this in order to stay or advance.
And for Indiana, it's been a kind of a resurgence, and it's been with running in Umar Ballo separate from Malik Renew. And then when you bring in Renew, you bring in a guy who's scored 22 points off the bench last time.
Right.
And that is where I think that they might have an advantage when you're bringing a second wave like that. Malik is just very talented with the ball, getting to the rim, scoring the ball. And I think that I don't know if that's an advantage for them, but we'll see what Oregon can do to slow that down tonight.
Yeah, I mean, Oregon also has a backup big named Supreme Cook, who's quite good. So it gives them he's not a started quality player the way Renew is, but he is an excellent athlete, really physically powerful, a very good individual low post scorer. They don't use it a lot, but it's available to them. He's, again, Malik Renew one-on-one is one of the best post players in the Big Ten as an offensive player. Again, you'd probably say Trey Kaufman-Wren's the best in the league at that, but Renew is up there. And I'm not sure that Supreme Cook is up there, but he is a useful player in that circumstance. So how big the advantage is obviously comes down to how well various players played. Is Ballo at the top of his game? Is Biddle at the top of his game? Is Renew at the top of his game? Is Cook at the top of his game, et cetera? So it all depends on how that all works out, how big that advantage is. But I have to give a lot of the credit for Indiana's resurgence to the installation of Anthony Leal as a starter and to using him 30 plus minutes, even though you look at the box and he can go scoreless. I think in their game at Washington, I believe, I hope I have this number right. I think he went scoreless, and I believe he was a plus 20 in plus minus, something like that. That says everything about what he's brought.
But I remember that he had 4 rebounds, 4 assists. He had other numbers that were not points. No, but defense does not show up on the stat sheet unless you're looking at the opposing players' numbers as well. Also, Trey Galloway running the point. It has changed that team, and bringing Miles Rice off the bench. It has just given this team a formidable start where they're able to compete with these teams. And then you do bring in a second wave. It's only taken, unfortunately, took Mike Whitson 3.5 years to get that figured out, but it is really working for them. I mean, they look like a much, much better team because they're harder to defend when you kind of keep bringing in some different aspects where most teams are not bringing in a second group that is just as good as the first.
Yeah, I believe that Trey belongs in that conversation with Anthony as well. And I think he's doing a wonderful job at point guard. I still think optimally they would have recruited better to that position than to bring 2 combo guys in and see if one of them could figure it out. And that's the reason Indiana's going to have a new coach next year. That position has not been well enough covered, with the exception of the year in which Jalen Hood-Schifino was there. That's the only year when that position was covered at the level it needed to be. And I think Trey's doing a really nice job, but I still think that they're a better basketball team if he's on the wing and a connector at playing with a really terrific point guard and a really dynamic, like a shooting guard who can bust threes at a high level, and Trey's the nominal 3-man, but able to interchange with the shooting guard. That's what Indiana's best version would be, but they don't have that. So he has to play the point, and he's doing a really good job of it. I mean, he spent 5 years in that program, and he's been playing out of position for 2 of it. 40% of his career, he had to play out of position. Now, it got him on the floor, and he got him a bunch of minutes, and now it's getting them wins, and that's great. But the misfortune of not recruiting to the most important position on the floor has set Indiana back and left them in a position where they're an 11 seed trying to firm up entry into the tournament instead of a team that's in the top half of the bracket as they might have been.
So I've been looking on the Indiana schedule, and I said, beating Oregon obviously would be a tremendous feather in their cap.
Yes.
Losing at Oregon, probably not going to hurt them a ton because It's expected. You're an underdog anyway, but you have to come back home, take care of business against Ohio State, probably win a Big Ten game. Do you think they need to win a Big Ten game?
Well, one assumes they would, and here's why.
Tournament,
Jim.
I mean.
Yeah, here's why one assumes that they would. Those are always tough questions, and people make suppositions. Well, if they get this and get that, and they win too, but you don't know who they're against, and that's the problem. And the reason, if you ask me that question, I say they probably need. Oh, there you go. Fozan Masri says that my number was only off by 6. He was actually a plus 26 on Saturday, Anthony Leo. That's what it was just amazing. But anyway,
that info comes to you from Amon Jordan, by the way.
Is that right? That's awesome.
Yes.
That is awesome. What I was going to say is that that you don't know who they're going to play, but where they're going to stand in the standings, they're probably going to play someone who is non-field, probably. And so you don't want another non-field loss. If you only get one of the next 3, you really are just leaving it up to whims at that point. If you get 2 of the next 3, any 2, that means you're either getting Oregon and making sure you don't take a bad loss, or you're getting Ohio State and you're taking care of. You're not knocking your competition out of the tournament, but you are dinging your competition. You're putting the loss on them and making them look bad relative. Not that the head-to-head matters as much as people want it to, but the loss matters on a resume that doesn't, from Ohio State's viewpoint, they don't need any more L's, man. They're going to get one because they're not winning the Big Ten tournament, but they don't need any more L's on a resume that already has 13. They need W's. So if you can put that on them and then make sure you don't hurt yourself in the Big Ten tournament, I think you probably make it. But all of that is suppositional because of not only do you not know who you're going to play, you don't know what those around you are going to do. And when I say those around you, I mean the teams that are on, and I'm just use my bracket because it's what I have. But if you look at the matrix, the consensus, it's close. Mine's close to that. So you worry about the 10s and you worry about the 12s or the 11s and 12s behind you. I have Indiana as the last 11 seed. That's an at-large that doesn't have to play in the first 4. And then my last 11 line is a first 4 line. And then my first 12 line is a first 4 line. So those 4 teams, Arkansas, Ohio State, Oklahoma, those are the teams you want to fail behind you. And you'd like the teams ahead of you to fail too, as Utah State did when they went to Colorado State the other night and got blown off the floor. I mean, that's good for IU because it not only does it ding them, but it also sort of lowers the bar a little bit. Like if that's a 10 seed and you're doing these things, maybe you're a 10 seed. So that's it. That's the picture. It's not as simple as what we do. It's what does everybody that's around us in the bracket projections do? And the reason I use the bracket projections as reference is not to aggrandize me. It's not about that. But we do a good job. And when I say we, I'm talking about myself, Joe Lenardi, Jerry Palm, and all the dozens of people who do this online do a really good job because at the end of the year, our brackets are pretty close in varying degrees to what the committee presents. We understand the process in general, and we execute the process in general close to what the committee will do. We're not 100% accurate relative to the committee. We usually get one team wrong as a group, but we're pretty much in the ballpark. You can look at what we do. You can look at what I do and say, that's not far off. I mean, you may disagree with me on here or there, but the general picture is not going to be that far off of what the committee does on Selection Sunday.
Yeah, it's hard to get all 68 of those. And speaking of 68, more talk of expansion, which I think is ridiculous. I don't even know if I want him to go into that right now because it's so dumb. it's just, who's pushing this? The SEC, I think we've had this discussion. The SEC wants to just have more teams. It's starting to become a complete grab by, I don't want to just name the SEC because the Big Ten is kind of,
but it was their idea.
Yeah, it's just dumb. Hell, they're getting in half the field this year anyway.
And that's why it's unnecessary. What ends up happening is that leagues like the Atlantic 10 think, well, if it's bigger, I'll have a better chance. And so they are in support of it. The WCC, Stu Jackson came out yesterday or the day before on the podcast with John Wilner of the Bay Area News Group and John Canzano from Portland, and endorsed expansion of the field because they all think they're going to get more of it, but they're not. That's not why it's being done. You're not getting any more bids. You're getting Gonzaga and St. Mary's until Gonzaga leaves, and then you're getting St. Mary's. That's how it works, and that's how it will always work. The bigger the field gets, the more of the majors are going to get in. And I'm telling you, if we had a bigger field now, and Irvine and UC San Diego play for the Big West Championship, there's a chance that one of those extra bids would go to them. So we're expanding to get one extra Big West team in the field, but everybody else that goes will be a high major. If we expanded based on the bracket projections of myself and others, if we expanded basically to 8 teams. So my first 4 out and next 4 out would be in, or Joe's or whoever's, but on average, our first 4 and next 4 out would all be in. And the only mid-major name that you see pop up on there is Irvine. That's it. It's the only one. And and some don't have that either. So they might not even make it. And I'm not including the Mountain West because I don't consider Mountain West to be a mid-major league. It's not a Power 5 league, but it's not a mid-major league. I've been in their buildings. I've been in Boise's building. I've been in San Diego's building. It's not mid-major. I went to Indiana State. Look, the Valley is a great league. It's a fun league. I admire what they do. But there's a difference between what I encountered when I was in Terre Haute and what I encountered when I was in San Diego. It's not the same. There were maybe 5,000-6,000 people at the Indiana State game against Wichita back when they had Ron Baker and that group. And I went to San Diego to see the Aztecs play Jimmer Fredette, and there were 13,000 people in there, and it seemed like a Big Ten game. So it's not the same. So we're not going to see the true mid-majors get more bids as a result of expansion. We're going to see more high majors get more bids and more lesser high majors. Because right now, North Carolina has done absolutely nothing to indicate that it is a NCAA tournament team. I don't mean, they beat UCLA by a point or whatever because UCLA must miss a bunch of free throws. Winning one game against a NCAA tournament quality team does not say I'm an NCAA tournament team. It says you won one game. They've done nothing else to indicate that they are that sort of team. And yet the reality is that if we had 8 more teams, Carolina would be in. And that's exhibit A of why we don't need 8 more teams.
Exactly. And you can go to the Sporting News to make sure you keep up with all of Mike's incredible content, as well as follow him on the Big Ten Network and Fox as well. What's your next assignment, sir?
Well, DeCourcy's Dozen, my weekly ranking and mini essay about college basketball appeared this morning. Today's essay is about why it pays to be a number 1 seed. The disparity between 1s and 2s. I see coaches all the time, Jim, say, I don't care about that seed. Give me a 2, I'll be fine. You know what? You won't be fine. The 1 seeds absolutely dominate. The 2 seeds do okay. The 2 seeds don't do that much better than the 3s, but the 1s do way better than the 2s. There have been 25 NCAA champions that were 1s. How many 2s do you think have won it? So we've had 39 tournaments since the bracket expanded. 25 1 seeds. how many twos?
I have no idea. 4.
5.
Oh,
That's
close.
it. So you were close. 5. That's all. So that says that whoever wins this little kerfuffle between Houston, Michigan State, Alabama, Tennessee, Florida, whoever comes out ahead of that, did I leave anybody out? I think that's everybody. There might be one more.
Tennessee,
whoever
maybe,
wins that, they're gonna it's a bigger reward than people realize.
Amazing. Look forward to talking more about that next week as we get closer and closer. Make sure you're following Mike DeCourcy at TSN Mike on Twitter. Appreciate you, my friend. That's going to wrap it up for this hour. We've got more coming up, including today's football pro day for Indiana. Back with more here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after these messages. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemoreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Tuesday. Happy to have you along for the ride. Appreciate you joining us and being with us as always. Looking forward to talking to Coach Shannon Griffith in a little bit. Indiana Football Pro Day today. We'll be out there covering that and have all of that for you tomorrow to talk about. A lot of guys that are on that list as that will be performing in front of scouts today, and it is an opportunity that makes it easier for these guys to get in front of these NFL scouts. And it a longer list than what I recall seeing last year, as a matter of fact, for the pro day. But of course, that makes sense with the success that Indiana has had here of late. But this list includes, where's the list of names on here? It is long and it is vast. Not getting it pulled up as quickly as I'd like to, though. But you can imagine all of the top players that they have on their team, and looking forward to getting some recognition That happens later on today. Sean Asbury, James Carpenter, Linnell Carr Jr., Miles Cross, Sedarius Doss, James Evans, Zach Horton, Terry Jones Jr., Tyson Lawton, Jacob Magnum Farrar, Derek McCormick, Darren McCulley, Miles Price, Curtis Rourke, Josh Sanguinetti, Nick Toomer, Jalen Walker, Trey Wettig, CJ West, and Keyshawn Williams. List of the names that will be participating in Indiana's Football Pro Day. That takes place today. We'll be out there. It's just like the oh my gosh, that just went on up in Indianapolis. Can't think of my name's going blank right now, or my mind's going blank. But yeah, it's a way to get that stuff done. Let's see. Must be talking about what's the response? They got jerseys framing. You must be talking about Senior Day stuff. But speaking of jerseys, how about the alternate jerseys Indiana wore at Washington? I loved them. I've seen them before. They were black with white and red numbers, and the script Indiana on front. I thought they looked pretty damn cool, personally, myself. I'm not one of those people that just goes berserk when you add black to a uniform, which black is pretty much a neutral alternate color for virtually every uniform. Indiana fans just have a craziness when it comes to it, but I liked it. I agree, Aaron. I thought that they looked good. Wouldn't mind seeing them a little more often, but whatever. I don't get that hung up on stuff that like people do, like the names on the jerseys. Tradition, smedition. What's it doing for you? Seriously, that line of crap that this is one team, all horse crap. Nobody pays attention when you're playing, whether you have your name on the back. I mean, you as an individual, it has no bearing on you. You're not paying attention to whether or not it's on there. It's easier for identifications a lot of times. Always not necessary for basketball, but it's not that big of a deal either. But I'll just keep reminding you, the last team to win a national championship without names on the backs of their jerseys that currently do not have names on the backs of their jerseys was Indiana. So there is that. Just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. But that's not the issue for football. They took them off once and they had to put them back on because it's too hard to identify players in football, especially because of the double numbers. You have so many double numbers, and the fact that now, back in the day, which was only about 3 or 4 years ago, most numbers coincided with specific positions. The linemen started at 50 in the middle, 60s, 70s, 80s to the tight ends and wideouts, 40s to the certain backs, and then the 2s and the 3s to the running backs, single digits to the quarterbacks. That stuff's out the window now. You can have whatever number you want. You can be a down lineman and have number 1. It no longer matters. So there's that. Got that going for you, which is nice. Russell says he doesn't view the IU uniforms as a brand, only the candy stripes. I agree with that. So there, let's see. Brian says they know who the players are. They don't need no stinking names on the jerseys. Yeah, I couldn't care either way. I don't go nuts when it's when there's a conversation about it. So there's that. Fred says on iconic teams wear traditional uniforms, i.e. the New York Yankees, IU needs to stick to their brand, keep traditional uniforms, in his opinion. They need to focus more on being good than they need to worry about their uniforms, in my opinion. But hopefully they can get to that point. But we'll see. An opportunity on tap tonight for Indiana. I saw earlier, I meant to comment about it, a comment that said that if Indiana were to lose tonight, that they're done. And that's not quite true. If they win, I think they're almost solidified. Well, you hate to say that, but they're already, as you just heard Mike DeCourcy say, he has them in on his current bracket. And that's a great sign for Indiana. I think that they're like a 10 seed in most brackets right now, which surprises me. I didn't think that they would be actually in until the end of the season. They're gonna need to get a win over Ohio State at home. I'm pretty certain, and that's not going to be an easy game because Ohio State is also fighting for its tournament life right now. They are not exactly sitting in the best position. They are behind Indiana in the Big Ten standings. Indiana currently at 9-9. And if they split these last two games, they go 10-10, which is a game better than what I had them doing. But I think that in and of itself will be enough to get into the tournament as long as they don't lay an egg in Indianapolis and lose to a lower seed to open the tournament. I think they just have to go 1-1. As a matter of fact, they just have to go 500 the rest of the way. If you lose tonight, it's not great, but it's not going to kill you as long as you come back and take care of business against Ohio State. That keeps you pretty much where you are right now. You get to the Big Ten tournament, you're going to be the higher seed in the first game. You got to win that game. When you lose the second one, you're at 500, and I think they stay put as to where they are right now. We'll see. We've got to take a pause for the cause. We'll start talking a little football as Coach Shannon Griffith will join us. Pro Day for Indiana football coming up today as football season, spring practice not that far away. I know Purdue, Nathan Baird would normally be with us, but Purdue's having spring football practice today. So that's a little soon. I didn't expect that their practices would start already, but they're at it. And so some teams are already at it on spring football. Can you believe it, folks, that we're talking about spring football in the middle of a heated basketball race? But that's right. That's where we are. We get to talk about football now as well. That is nice. That is nice. You got to say I enjoy that. Appreciate everybody joining us here on the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Let's see here. Get a comment here. Brian Evans will be in the front row with a Grinch mask on. When is that? For tonight's game or the rest of the year? We'll see. Hey, we've got more coming up. Coach Shannon Griffith joins us next on the backside right after these messages from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Marie in Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Marie Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road rye, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Tuesday. Appreciate you being with us. Coach Shannon, Griffith along for the ride. How are you doing, sir?
Doing great. A little rainy up here in the north, but snow's melting. Temperatures are getting a little warmer. I smell a little bit of spring football in the air.
Well, you can keep that rain, but I'll take the spring football. Curtis Rourke was up at the NFL Combine following some knee surgery, but he's one of many guys that will be out at Indiana's Pro Day today, which has a lengthy list of names that I read off a little bit ago. But opportunity for guys just to – it's basic stuff. This is nothing earth-shattering. Running, throwing, lifting, it's kind of like the being at the zoo and being put on display, actually.
Yeah, a little bit of the meat market, but you get the chance for the quarterbacks and receivers and DBs maybe to do some one-on-one that allows scouts to evaluate one's capabilities and being in space. And, while I do think Indiana does have some guys that are, draft available in some respects, I think they will get drafted. There's a few guys on this list that I do think will get in camp somewhere and maybe have a chance to move themselves into either the roster or the practice squad.
Yeah, and I'm still amazed that Curtis Rourke was able to play once he tore his ACL. I'm like, how do you? Most of the time we see that guys are taken off the field and it's over. So this had to be a unique kind of tear.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything that really has said too much about it. I'm sure they're probably keeping that pretty tight to the vest in some respects, but I think irregardless of what Curtis was going to do in this time period, I think he's got a lot of good tape that will show his capabilities on the field. And then when you add to that dynamic a ACL tear, you come away, a little bit more of the wow. What the kid was able to do and play through some toughness and stuff like that. And that's what NFL teams like to see. They like to see those guys that can battle through some adversity or play through some, pain at sometimes, but still play at a high level. So Curtis's draft stock only went up, in my opinion, throughout the year. And it'll be interesting to see where he is at as it pertains to his rehab. I know that surgery was pretty done most, likely at the end of the year as quickly as possible. So he get in the best position that he could have to get into a training camp and be able to participate.
Yeah. And one of the ironic things that he said was that he could not, he speculated Friday that the full ACL tear, now. I'm telling you, that's why I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
May have occurred during fall camp, but he could not pinpoint a specific moment. I mean, the only thing I can think of is because he already wore a brace that it didn't let it hurt as much, that it kept it from hurting as much because it wasn't moving in that direction?
Yeah, they were able to stabilize the knee enough that it wasn't going to affect his ability one way or the other. And
but they didn't know about it. He never acknowledged it to the medical staff.
Right. And, he wasn't wearing a brace even in the spring and all through fall camp. And, kind of that was the first clue, I guess, if you had been around camp and seen no brace or something to that effect. But, sometimes ACL tears, for whatever reason, there are situations where I've seen guys play. I've seen guys like offensive linemen play with torn ACLs and things of that nature. Now, if you're a skill position guy where you're going to be doing a lot of cutting and things of that magnitude, no. More than likely, this is why Curtis really wasn't, too keen to be taken off running with that knee being in the situation that it was. But man, oh man, what a gutsy year for a kid that, it comes out of nowhere, battled some injuries at OU, steps into a role here at Indiana, takes over and becomes a great leader and propels an offense that was pretty darn special throughout the season.
Yeah, and now you look forward to next season, but these guys have an opportunity, and it means a lot when you get players drafted because that helps sell recruiting. Indiana does not have a deep roster of pro football players. They have some, but developing more of those guys is important, not just for the team that they play on, but the teams after they're gone. You need that kind of culture.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing too. We talked about this before in recruiting, is the foundational aspects of high school recruiting and how important it is to get those type of guys in your program, and you're building your foundation with those guys and preparing them to be the next whoever to step into the lineup, and then use the portal where you're short, in terms of what you do or do not have available. So that's why we've seen such a high utilization by Coach Signetti right now with the portal, is because they are short in some areas. And, but I do think in this group, there's a lot of really good football players that are going to have an opportunity. Carr is a kid that I think is going to have a possibility to have a look. I don't know if he'll get drafted, but I think he'll ultimately get a chance to get into a camp somewhere. Miles Cross, those type of guys, Tyson Lawton, in what he's been able to do, even though he's not a burner. Those type of guys. I do just think there's a lot of guys in here that have an opportunity to get in that arena. And I like a kid like CJ West. I do think CJ's a draftable type of tackle based upon what he did at the combine. I mean, he had some really good numbers at the combine, and he may lack some height and length, but he makes up for it in the way he plays the game.
Speaking of the Colts, Colts have the quarterback position has come into question after really riding hard on the Anthony Richardson trail. Yeah, not so sure anymore, huh?
Well,
I'm not saying that Curtis Rourke is going to be the guy, because he's not expected to be a high draft pick, but.
Well, if you want my opinion about the Anthony Richardson situation, number one, I never felt that he was that high of a draft pick at all. He played 18 games in the college ranks, 18. Now, he's a big, strong specimen kid, passes the eye test, has a strong arm and all, but he's not been battle tested very much. And we're seeing some of those deficiencies now in the NFL that the Colts have suffered with him being in there at quarterback. There's times where he wows you, and there's times that you just shake your head and think, what is he thinking? But, if Curtis would have an opportunity to be with the Colts, man, I think that's a good landing spot, because I do think he'll have a legitimate shot of being in a competition there. And, I do think what Curtis has more than anything is accuracy. I think that's the key component. You have to have accuracy. You have to be a guy that can complete that high 60%, early 70% passing percentage. And Curtis is a guy that I think has that. And, I do think he's a guy that's a mid-rounder type of quarterback, and we'll see where he lands potentially. And yeah, I think there will be question marks with his ACL, even though it's all taken care of and things of that magnitude. But I do think he's going to get a good shot of being drafted. And I think if wherever he lands, I think that organization is going to be proud to have Curtis Rourke in it.
Absolutely. He reminds me of a Nate Sudfeld, man, just solid as a rock. He may not be an NFL starter, but he is solid as a rock. And obviously, and he's shown that with his ability to play through injuries.
Yeah.
A lot of other IU guys that will be out there today at Pro Day as well, getting to run through the paces. Who's some of the guys that you think might have the best shot to be picked up here?
Well, we talked about CJ, of course, because his combine, but a guy like Trey Weedig, had played at Wisconsin and had a pretty decent year at Indiana, a big size offensive lineman. I do think he's the type of guy that the NFL looks for, in an offensive lineman. I do think he has that opportunity. Carr is another one that I think is, maybe not a draft pick, but does have a opportunity to get into a camp somewhere. Zach Horton, here's a guy that probably won't be drafted, but whoever gets him into camp, I think will be pleasantly surprised to get that young man into camp, because what he did last year at a spot where they put him out on the edge and let him get out in space and run routes, and his ability to block, whether it's at the point of attack or whether it's out on the perimeter, he did a heck of a job. And I do think that will be something to watch to see where Zach potentially finds a home at. And, we talked a little bit about Lawton and his ability too. I think there's probably 5 or 6 guys that are maybe a little higher that'll have an opportunity to get into camp. And I think there's probably 1 or 2 guys that would have a potentially have their name call on draft day.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see. But a lot of guys are able to make it into the league by being an unrestricted free agent.
Right.
And that, while you would like to get drafted because it's a little more money, at the end of the day, all you care about is making that roster.
Well, yes. And it gives you the flexibility to look at what the organization has and doesn't have in their camp, and what they did draft or what they didn't draft. And sometimes, a guy can find a home, and just because of the scenario where they're at, it lends its opportunities to them to make the 53-man roster, and that's, like I said, a guy like Zach Horton, if he gets the right spot, lands at the right spot, man, I think, there's a guy that, has a chance to earn his way up the chain, so to speak, if he gets into the right spot where they need, tight ends that can do point of attack and also be utilized in space. So he brings a lot to the table. And then you talk about the skill guys as corners, the Joneses of the world, the Carpenters, the safeties of the world, Alsbury. These teams will always need skill position guys from the standpoint of depth. They need that depth, and there's some guys that can provide that, even though they're undrafted, free agent, and that helps those kids because they'll study where they can potentially go land and have that conversation with their agent if they don't get their name called, where they're going to go. But you're right. I do think there'll be quite a few that will have an opportunity to get into a camp somewhere and have an opportunity to show what they can do.
Yeah. And speaking of, when does spring practice start for Indiana.
Well, it
I don't
starts
have,
Saturday, March 8th.
I was going to say,
Yeah, it starts Saturday, March 8th. Of course, the spring game is April 19th.
and I'm hearing that spring game might be moved up to Thursday.
Well, there's a lot of controversy right now in college football and a lot of programs that are not even going to have a spring game because
Nebraska's kind of started it with Matt Rule. Now Texas,
but there's a lot of them now. Yeah, there's a lot of them now that, think, wow, that makes a lot of sense why we're losing guys in this second portal, because they're getting a free scout of our players, especially depth wise. So that's the one thing to be keeping an eye on, whether that's something that Cignetti decides to do and not have a spring game, or it'll be interesting because when you think about it, the Big Ten Network, they do a lot in televising spring games, and they're expecting teams to be having spring games. Well, all of a sudden, if you're getting a bunch canceled, that puts them in a little bit of bind with a lot of time slots that they were hoping to fill with spring games that are now open. So, but yeah, they start Saturday. That's usually how it works. You have your pro day that gets that out of the way, and then you're really starting in a rather quick fashion. Now, Saturday's practice will be in their underwear, of course. It'll just be helmets and t-shirts and shorts for the most part, because you have that.
And no, ladies, practice is closed, so you can't show up.
Yeah, acclimation period where they have to have a couple days in that regard, and then they'll start graduating their way to full pads by going in shells and then full pads. But you're limited in what you really can do now in spring ball. I mean, I think you only have two or three times where you can actually tackle to the ground. And what's interesting is, like we talked last year, Cignetti doesn't believe in tackling to the ground, whether it's fall camp or spring, because last fall camp, they only did one practice where they brought, true full tackling to the ground. And
hey, it worked. Let me tell you, Indiana had a great season with a lack of major injuries. And I think that is a major part of it, because too many times you hear about guys going down in practice rather than games.
And you look at it from the standpoint too, they had very few missed tackles in that first few weeks of the season, which was kind of astonishing when you think about it. But it's really a tip of the hat to the defensive staff, because I'm sure they work very hard in drills and implementing things that broke down the fundamentals of tackling and taught it the right way. And so when they had the opportunity to do it on Saturday, they did a great job of it. So you're right with the injury stuff. You get a little worried about that, especially in the spring, if your depth is not quite there. Now, remember, they're going to have a pretty good group of kids going out for spring practice, because you've got those 14 first years that are in, signed up and in the spring semester. So you'll get a great evaluation of those kids and what you have there. Can they provide depth? Can they put themselves in a position to fight for, time on the field? So it will be a very productive spring camp, and every spring camp, irregardless of who you got returning, is always a time for competitiveness and for coaches to give opportunities to guys that may have not gotten a lot of repetitions during the season. So it provides an opportunity for those guys to compete. And that's what you're looking for. And I'm sure that's what Sig's looking for. But even at quarterback, you're going to have a three-way battle for right now. With the Mendoza brothers competing, and then the other young man they brought in from Old Dominion. So it'll be an interesting battle there.
Yeah, looking forward to it. And getting back to the spring game issue, the sheer fact that players get jacked up and like, well, I don't think I'm going to get to play, so I'm getting out of here after a spring game. Boy, does that aggravate me, because that shows you have no fight in you. Mm-hmm. You have no, I wouldn't want a player that left because they didn't get the time that they wanted or the reps that they wanted in a spring game, and they weren't willing to fight. Because if you're not better than the guy in front of you, why the hell do I want you?
Well, that's true.
Why would I want you if you're not willing to fight?
Yeah. And that comes down to who else recruited him as well and has a connection to the young man that's entering the portal. But I'll say this, I'm guarantee you that both sides of the ball are going to give ample opportunity to the players that they have to get the repetitions so that they can be thoroughly evaluated. I'm sure Sig has a protocol and how he wants things to be delivered to him about each position group so that he can have that discussion with that player. And whether that means a player enters the portal because he's not going to be in the top 2 or 3, and he wants to go find a place to play, then you know what you know, it is what it is when it comes to that. And you push the kid, out the door, so to speak, and hope to find him an opportunity to go play. But I'm sure that every kid will get a good amount of repetition so that they can be evaluated by the position coach and also the head coach.
Hey, we've got plenty to talk about here on the program. Coach Shannon Griffith with us right now. Talk Indiana spring, the pro day today. They haven't always had one of these. They haven't always had a reason to have. But the fact that you do get one and you have as many names on the list as they do, that's good. Now, Keyshawn Williams, isn't he coming back?
I thought so. But the thing that if he's a quote unquote senior or 5th year guy, they may let
he's
him
allowed to go through it.
Yeah, they may put him through it just for the sake of people getting the time on him and all the measurables that they need so that when they evaluate him during the year, they've got something to go by. But even though these guys are going through what a senior timing day or however you want to look at it, these are the guys in their final year of eligibility are getting information on them by the scouts that will be there. And this will probably be fairly well attended with NFL scouts there today, especially because of West and Rourke and some other guys. But the rest of the team will also go through their version of the pro day, because this is the time that they'll get a chance to get their times in the 40 and, all the different measurements that the strength coach needs. So they'll get all that completed today, and then get ready for their first practice on Saturday.
Football is like no other sport. It, with these combines, and it puts you through these mills. It measures all these little things. When you think of other sports, they don't, like a baseball player, a basketball player, they're more about the game, more about your production in the game, where football uses so much analytics on every little thing, how fast you can run the 40, how fast you can run, this drill, that drill, the other drill, the Wonderlic test, all of this funky stuff that the NFL uses. It's kind of wild.
Yeah. They measure a kid's hand, they measure his wingspan. I mean, there's a lot of different things that go into it. As you said, the analytics of everything, because they'll have data that will say if a kid does A, B, C, and D and his measurements are this, they'll say, well, this is very similar to so-and-so who was a 3-4 time Pro Bowler, and so they'll look at it from that perspective. This kid has all the measurable intangibles that we're looking for, throw on the tape and see if that backs up what we're seeing in the data that we're gathering on them. And the other thing they do on a day like this is they do interviews as well. And you saw that at the combine. NFL teams want to see how a young man handles himself behind a mic. Do they talk, in a specific way? Do they answer the tough questions? things of that magnitude. Now, for some kids, it's the first time they're behind a mic, and, they don't maybe not know, but these are things that NFL teams evaluate. And sometimes you don't even think that's even a priority for them when you talk about why would it matter what a kid does behind the mic, when he's interviewing. Well, it talks about his intelligence.
Every little thing.
Yeah.
They look at every little thing. It's amazing.
Yeah. Everything that they can evaluate, they do.
And not all of it is really plausible, I think, but they use it and they put it in combination with everything else, and that's what they do. That's why the NFL claims to be, and they kind of are. They are, separate from all the other organizations, pro organizations. They are kind of the leader, basically, in professional sports, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and you look at what the NFL does. Well, the NCAA, the Power Four guys do the same thing in their summer camps. So they'll have these invitational only type of camps where they're bringing their top guys in. For Indiana, June 9th, they're bringing in the skill guys. Well, they'll test them in these areas, pro shuttle, 40, broad jump, vertical jump, all those things. Go out and do one-on-one. They'll film the one-on-one session so that they have all the data points they need to really evaluate some of the kids that they're going to potentially target in the 26 class or the 27 class, however you want to look at it. So flip the script, because all the big boys in the college arena do the same thing with high school kids.
Absolutely. Coach Shannon Griffith is along with us right now. We've got more to talk about. We'll talk some basketball, even though he doesn't care about it or is up. We'll might as well. We'll get his take on the coaching search. What do you think? Haven't talked about it because basically there's nothing really to talk about. But everybody wants to talk about it anyway, so we'll do that. We've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. From the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios, we're back with more right after these messages. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemoreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue. And you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Tuesday, joined by Coach Shannon Griffith, and not in your mill view, but before we move on from football, you've got spring ball coming up, and hopefully there will be some battles. Normally you're looking for a quarterback battle, but not going to be the case this year, as there was at least thought to have been Evelyn last year. That's not even the case this year. They're going in with a starting QB.
Yeah, I think everybody pretty solid on Mendoza and where he's at in this. But you definitely got to have depth. And that's where, they're going to get plenty of repetitions because you only have 3. And I don't know if there is a walk-on that they kept around with that or what. But, I think Fernando and for most practical purposes is the guy that they're wanting to be the guy. And, I just think from listening to the kid do a couple of interviews, he's smart, very intelligent. I think he'll handle the offense well. I do think he'll be able to do things that they like to do in this offense, and maybe more than what Curtis could do because he doesn't have a bad knee. So, but I do think at that position, I think they got to feel pretty comfortable where they're at. And for the most part on offense, it's always the offensive line and building depth there and seeing who's going to be your right tackle, left tackle, guards and centers, and try to develop a depth situation there that allows them to have a lot of confidence no matter who's on the field. And last year, Coach Bobstead did a heck of a job of getting an offensive line prepared to play, and that was about 7 or 8 guys ready to play each and every week because you just didn't know when a number was going to be called. So, from an offensive standpoint, even with some of the wideouts they've lost, I do think they've brought in some really good wideouts as well. Tyler Morris, I'm anxious to see how he does, the young man from Michigan. As well as where EJ Williams has matured over these last few months, because that was his biggest thing is the maturity aspect. And so that, and then of course, the tight end position, because it's vitally important to what Shanahan likes to do with the tight end. And they've got some good looking bodies in that regard.
What's going to be the biggest position battle, do you think?
Oh, I think running back is always one of those positions that's a pretty contested position, trying to be the guy that's either 1-2 in the mix. And then, of course, you're always going to have that third guy. Indiana had 4 guys last year that were pretty good, and they settled on pretty much 2. And, Black and Green, who were, in my mind, very, very good running backs, did not see as much time as the year went on. And, of course, Green ended up transferring at the end of the year because he just didn't see a pathway to him being in the top 2 at that position. So that's a pretty heavily contested position, of course. Wide receiver is trying to be in the top 7 or 8 in that position room. But that gives you're pretty set there with that position where there's plenty of opportunities and reps, especially in an offense that likes to run the spread, where you're trying to keep a tempo going and you're going to have to get those receivers in and out. So you got to have at least 6 or 7 that are at the top of their game, and no matter who goes in can get it done. And I thought Indiana did a great job of that last year when backups came in and made plays. I mean, they made plays out on the field. So, but I would say running back is going to be a very highly contested position, trying to be the guy that's in that 1-2 category.
Well, look forward to that. And with the addition of Khalil Benson, or not Khalil Benson, but although he's a great addition, the offensive line, man, do they come into the season so much better at offensive line this year than they did a year ago. They have pretty much, you can almost say who all the starters will be, but not for sure. Zen Mikowski, the kid from Floyd Central High School that went to Ohio State, now 6'9", 300-pounder, just the size that gives them size they didn't have.
Yeah. Kid like that, you know, it's about forcing a defensive end to go around you. And that's a pretty big body to try to get around you to the quarterback. So that adds that dynamic. And that's what Bobstead likes. He likes the bigger body kid across the whole front of the offensive line. And for the most part, they've got that, you know, the Caden kid from Notre Dame, you know, he's what, 6'5", 310. You know, that's a pretty big center. I mean, I would like to be a quarterback behind him because, you know, big, strong kid gives you pretty much confidence that you know, that the middle is going to be, you know, fairly secured. But the thing I think Indiana has more so than anything at the offensive line is that they do have depth. And that's not something that they've had in years past. I do think they have, you know, pretty good depth at the offensive line. And a lot of those guys that are coming back have seen playing time. And that's just something that, you know, is so valuable, especially at a position like offensive line, where you've already got 6, 7, 8 guys that had significant snaps this past year.
Who's your selection for the next Big Ten or the next basketball coach at Indiana? I'm sure you're locked in on that.
Oh man, I tell you, it goes in so many different directions, and being that it's still early in the process, I just don't get a good grip on who is that guy that you think is at the top of the heap. You know, I was kind of like you early on. I thought Dusty May, was he at Michigan, right? I thought maybe he had a pretty good chance of being that guy just based upon the background and stuff. But Michigan said not so fast, and he did use the leverage of Indiana to get him a nice big contract. I know Beard is a guy that is a really good coach, but there is some baggage there. You know, is it enough? Has it passed enough time?
Nope.
And that's the question, and that's the thing. So some of the guys that I think would be very good, there are some things that are preventing that from coming into fruition, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that one's not going to happen. I don't know who it's going to be. I'll be honest with you. There are just a lot of guys that are out there that are still candidates. Scott Drew's still a candidate. Mick Cronin's a candidate. TJ Otzenberger, Ben McCollum, Grant McCasland. I'm just going off the top of my head quickly. All these guys are still legit candidates for this position right now.
Yeah. In some respects, I think Drew's a safe pick. You know, you're going to get
pick, but it's not sure whether it's something that he would be interested in.
Right. You know, he's got a pretty clean background and what he's been able to do at the places he's been. And of course, he's, right now, what he's done, even at, I think it's Baylor, right? Has been a pretty good showing since he's been there. You know, that would be a guy that I think would be high on the list. And that's the thing. You got these guys still playing in the season, and some of them are going to be in the tournament, and it's going to be a long while before they're really going to be able to talk to the coach per se. Now they're talking to the agents and stuff, as we've talked about before. But I think Indiana's done a pretty good job of keeping it pretty close to the vest. Kind of like what Dolson did with the hiring of Signetti. You know, it was pretty close to the vest and not too much leaked out, and he was able to conduct a search and he got the right guy. This one's going to be a little bit. This one will give you gray hairs. I can guarantee you that, and a lot of sleepless nights.
Absolutely. As looking forward to, because with football rolling the way it is, man, if you can get basketball going, which is the favorite, it's the favorite sport in for Indiana, and it's always going to be that way. But that doesn't mean that football is not going to be right there, because winning makes everything better, and winning is winning. It could be something special if they can get that right, and it's time for them to get it right, man.
Well, first and foremost, like you said, Jim, if you have two programs that are the most visible programs of your institution, football and basketball, and you can have successful programs, it only makes things better for the campus enrollment. You usually see the enrollment being affected by those things that put yourself out in the media more. So it's a little bit more top of mind for kids. So if they can find the right candidate at Indiana for basketball in similar fashion what they did with SIG, and they can get things on the right track, yeah, it could be something that catches fire, and next thing you know, it's spilling over into other, parts of the athletic program. And from a fundraising standpoint, it makes things a lot easier when you want to do something that's going to cost millions of dollars to be able to go to a donor that has the money to help the project along. When you have programs that are winning and they're more willing to put in the big dollars to help catapult your team.
Yeah, and looking forward to seeing how much better it can be in year two, with a year behind them, with not having to rebuild a team or build an entire team so much as just sprinkle in and make it better, which they seem to have done that.
Yeah, I think one thing that impressed me or has impressed me about Signetti's past and what he's at now is his ability to add the right pieces to the puzzle of what he needs. And when you're at James Madison and you're trying to do it with kids that are overlooked or a little bit undersized, he was able to put together pretty good ball clubs there in the years that he was there. He did it at Elon, which is a very tough academic institution, and he's done it in Indiana. So you got to think that he's got a pretty good eye for talent, both visible and hidden talent, the underlying things that he's able to see and evaluate. And again, he's only gone after kids in the portal that have a body of work to be evaluated. Kind of like what you said, I'm not looking for the second team guy that hasn't got a lot of snaps, and we're wishing and hoping that he becomes the number one guy here. He's looking for those guys that have significant snaps that can be evaluated in games. And that's where they've been able to do some good recruiting in the portal, is getting those guys that they've seen on tape and evaluated and brought them in. And CJ West is a prime example of that, because of what he was able to do to add to the defensive line that they so desperately needed heading into the season.
Absolutely. What is up next for you?
Going to look at a preview for spring ball and talk about, some of the different position groups and what is it that Indiana's looking to get out of this spring camp that is a little bit different than what they were trying to get out of it last year, because last year you're talking about everything and anything, A to Z, that they were trying to do in a short period of time. A little different in your second year because you've been through it and you know what you need to get accomplished and how you're going to set it up and things of that magnitude.
Looking forward to it, buddy. We appreciate you as
You
always.
bet. We'll see you.
Enjoy it.
Everybody have a great week. I'll see you Thursday, I guess I could say.
That's right. That's right. Not too far away. We'll pick up on what happens today at pro camp and prepare for more of spring practice opening up.
All right, partner. We'll see you again.
Absolutely. Thank you. Big thanks to each and every one of you. Without you, we've got no reason to be here. It's been another fun one. Back tomorrow to do it again. Rick Bozich will join us. We'll catch up on tonight's game, Indiana, Oregon, and see where the Hoosiers are from that point forward. If they can solidify an NCAA spot or keep trickling it out. Appreciate you. Have a great day. Until then, I am Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.